Hello everyone, it's lovely to be back with you again, having a little chat with you, tell you a little bit more about what Christians believe and what we do. And I want to talk to you today about how the church helps others. And to do that, I'm going to tell you about a Christian organisation that works here in Edinburgh with different people to help them out as much as they can. But before I do that, I want to show you these two Bible verses. And these help us to know how God wants us to act towards other people. So this is from a book called Ephesians, actually a letter that a guy called Paul wrote to these people who lived in this area called Ephesus. That's why it's called that. And in that letter, he's saying to them, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, just as God through Christ has forgiven you. And then he wrote another letter to people who lived in a place called Philippi, and he said in that letter, don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others too. So in other words, Jesus is telling us, God's telling us through this letter, to look out for each other, to be kind, to put them before ourselves, and to make sure that we do as much as we can to help other people, especially people who are less fortunate than ourselves. And actually these are just two of the many, many Bible verses. There's loads and loads of Bible verses that tell us that how God wants us to look after others. And that's a really important part of being a Christian. So what organisation am I going to tell you about? It's called the Bethany Christian Trust. I don't know, some of you might have heard of that. And it doesn't only work in Edinburgh, but it started in Edinburgh. And this is what Bethany Christian Trust says about itself. Bethany Christian Trust is a national charity whose mission is to relieve the suffering and meet the long-term needs of homeless and vulnerable people in Scotland. Now I wonder if you notice that even though Bethany describes itself as a Christian trust, they don't say that they're only there to help people who are Christians. They actually want to help everyone, anyone who needs help from them. They are happy to try to help as many people as possible. And Bethany do lots of things to help homeless people, but I'm just going to tell you about three things very quickly. So here's the first thing, the care van. The care van provides care and support for people who are homeless and vulnerable in the city, the centre of Edinburgh every night. They give homeless people from this van hot drinks and warm food. They give them blankets and clothes. They're able to give advice and help homeless people, if they want to know how they can help themselves. And they would see something between 20 and 60 people who are sleeping rough 363 nights of the year. So 2 nights only of the year that the care van isn't out. And the care van is run by people who volunteer from churches across Edinburgh and the Lothians. And if these people weren't helping run the care van, then the care van couldn't run, it couldn't exist. There's too many people. And there's actually over 750 people across the year who get involved in helping with the care van. So what's a great thing, don't you think? The care van providing food and advice and clothing and so on for people who are sleeping rough through the year. Now the next thing I want to tell you about that Bethany is involved in is called the Bethany Night Shelter. Now the Bethany Night Shelter, well, let me say this first. When I'm recording this, it's December, the 8th or 9th of December, I can't quite remember. Outside it's pretty cold, but this morning when I left my house it was nice and warm. I had plenty of food to eat for my breakfast, and when I go back home tonight I'll have plenty of food to eat and my house is going to be warm and safe. But for homeless people, they have to try and find somewhere to sleep outside, and it's very hard for them to find somewhere that's warm, and it's very hard for them to find somewhere where they feel safe. So a few years ago, Bethany decided to ask churches in Edinburgh, mostly kind of around the centre of Edinburgh, if they would allow homeless people to sleep in their buildings. Now most churches, if you've ever been in one, have big halls, maybe not as big as this one, this is huge, isn't it? But they have big halls and where they can, people could come and be safe and warm and dry to sleep. And Bethany will bring loads of beds. Wait, forget my fancy pointer thing, there it is. Bethany will bring lots of beds and mattresses, blankets and pillows and so on, so that people are able to sleep safely and warm. And the church turns the heating on, so it's lovely and cozy in that room when they are all sleeping there. And then volunteers from churches all across Edinburgh and the Lothians again will come in the evening. They'll prepare food, see they're peeling some tatties there. They'll make a lovely warm hot meal for them. They'll make a nice lovely tasty dessert, a nice pudding for them. And then they'll put the kettle on and make them loads and loads of cups of tea. And then they'll provide toast and cereal and all sorts of things for them to have breakfast in the morning. And that service goes all the way through the winter, so that the people who are homeless and rough sleeping in Edinburgh will always have somewhere warm and safe to stay in the evening. And here are some numbers of the night shelter that helps us understand kind of what they do. So 28 weeks of the year, so right through the coldest part of the year, 9,251 bed spaces, amazing. 10,000 meals cooked, isn't that great? 47 people on average using the care shelter. So not everyone who's homeless goes there, but everyone who wants to can. 1,000 dedicated volunteers from 72 churches across Edinburgh and the Lothians get involved. And also there, all those people, homeless people together, lots of other agencies come who are able to provide advice and help for them, because all the homeless people are all gathered together. So what a great thing the care shelter does for people. Now, I could go, we could wonder, sorry, I went ahead of myself a little bit there. You've got to imagine that doing all this sort of stuff costs a lot of money. And it does cost a lot of money for Bethany to do all the things it does. And this is only some of the things Bethany does. They do loads of other stuff, but it does cost money. So how are they going to pay for it? Well, someone at Bethany had this really clever idea, and here's what they do. It's called caring Christmas trees. So Bethany sell really nice, good quality Christmas trees, and that helps to pay for all they do. How does it do that? Well, lots of people like to buy a real Christmas tree every year. I don't know if you do. Some people like their artificial ones. Some people really like having a real tree in their house. So Bethany, you can go online on Bethany's website, buy a Christmas tree, and then about 3 or 4 places around Edinburgh over a couple of weekends, the Christmas trees get laid out. You can see them all getting laid out on the ground there, and then people can come and say, well, I bought a 6 foot, an 8 foot tree, a 4 foot tree, whatever it happens to be, and then they can buy it. It'll get wrapped up in this net, or if you're a silly beanhead like those guys, you can wrap up a person, and then you can come and take your tree away. And this part here is also run by volunteers. Now this group of guys here, and these guys who are being a bit silly here, they are all from our church, from our youth group, and one of the things that we do in our church is to go and help Bethany distribute these trees and pass them on to people over that one of the days that they are doing that. And some of these guys here were pupils at Oxgangs Primary. This guy here and that guy, or maybe not that guy, but this guy here and that guy here, they were pupils at Oxgangs, and now they are much older. This photo was from 2 or 3 years ago, I think. They're all at university now. But it just shows that how much that we can all find a way to help, even if it's a small thing like that. Spend part of a Saturday or a Sunday handing out these trees, and it's so helpful, and it helps Bethany to pay for all the things that they do. Now, I could go on and on and on telling you about how lots of the other things churches do with children, with young people, older people, people with disabilities, people with dementia, but I could talk all day about all the things the churches do. Don't worry, I'm not going to. And of course, it's not only churches, people from churches that help, people, lots of other people do, of course, as well. But as I was saying at the beginning, Christians believe that God wants us to help other people, and that's one of the things He tells us to do, to care for others and to care for people who are less fortunate than us. And so thank you so much for listening really well again, I'm sure, and I hope that you've enjoyed that, finding a little bit about what Bethany does. And again, if there's any questions, I'm happy for you to email me or send me a message, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. But thanks again for listening so well, and I hope you all stay well, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Okay, take care, bye.